Well, just like that, the Jameis Winston experiment is over, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the review of Saints Bucs Week 2. We're going to break down everything I saw in the game, thoughts moving forward. We're going to specifically talk about this Jameis Winston controversy, I guess it is, within the Saints Nation. We'll talk about everything there is to do with that game. So, as we talked about last week, I was in the Dome. I was front and center. I was right there, saw everything, all 22'd the entire game, felt good about it, was literally calling plays from the seat. Crown and Sprite was flowing, Bloody Marys were flowing, the Dome was packed, incredible atmosphere, first game back this year, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 experience from the Dome, everything was good. So, I mean, I honestly, I don't even know where to begin, but I guess we'll talk about the actual game. So I thought Dennis Allen and co. called a pretty decent game. I really didn't think their play calling or game management or anything like that was really bad. Mark Ingram was great on the ground. Mark Ingram was fantastic until that fumble. If he doesn't fumble there, do we win the game? Hard to say. More than likely, but I thought Ingram ran really well, and he looked good. I mean, like, you can kind of tell when a running back is either running through, he's just running through holes, or he's actually making stuff happen on his own. And Ingram was making stuff happen. He looked really good. So the Kamara effect wasn't too drastic. Nothing to say against Allen. Nothing to say about them. Obviously, our defense was amazing. Obviously, the defense was unbelievable. It was 3-3 late into the second half. Nothing wrong there. The penalty. So this is, I guess, the first part of this. The penalty /fight /ejections, all that stuff. So the most egregious penalty is obviously the unnecessary roughness, right? The unnecessary roughness was a complete whiff, literally, from both the player and the referee crew. Sean Hockley's unit was bad all game, but that's an egregious call. You can't make those calls. I mean, I know, it's 2022 and all you hear about is like robot umps and all that stuff. Wouldn't y'all rather get these calls right? Like, wouldn't you rather put every single thing you can into place so that when these calls happen in the game, we get them right? And we don't have to have games decided by missed calls on the goal line or botched turnovers or botched pass interferences or botched unnecessary roughness, especially whenever it elongates a drive. If it happens and just throughout the game, the flow of the game, whatever. But happening on a third down stop or a fourth down stop or things like that is just so backbreaking. So the penalty obviously was really bad. Now, as far as the fight goes, Evans, I mean, Bruce Arians should not be on the sidelines. Like, Bruce Arians shouldn't be on the sidelines. He shouldn't be just walking around. He shouldn't be in the coach's area. He shouldn't be antagonizing players. He shouldn't be jaw-jacking, stuff like that. Tom Brady, to me, the dominoes fell like this. Tom Brady started jaw-jacking, and then Fournette came to his defense, and then Evans came to his defense as well. So it was like a 3-on-1 situation there. It was like a 3-on-1 against Lattimore. Now, obviously, the old saying is they punish the one who retaliates or whatever, not the one who starts it. I don't think there's much Lattimore could have done. I'm not going to sit here and say that he was a saint, no pun intended. Again, we're not intending quite a few puns. Only about 4 minutes into this thing, but I do I'm kind of on the fence with that, because I do think, like, as far as the refs, you do have to stop things from increasing. You do have to stop things from getting worse. So I don't blame the refs for throwing both of them out, because the whole goal there is like, okay, look, it's just like Major League Baseball. Whenever pitchers throw at batters and the umpire warns both dugouts, that's pretty much what this was. This was throwing out who Evans took a cheap shot. So it's throwing him out and then throwing out one from the Saints so that it wasn't, an uproar. It wasn't one versus none or anything like that. I think they handled that pretty well. in that situation, it was offsetting penalties. One player from each group got kicked off, and that pretty much calmed it down, which I think is fine. Generally, I've heard a lot of people saying like they should have just thrown out Evans or just thrown out Fournette or thrown out Fournette and Evans. This is more of a keep the peace kind of call versus a call that you would see in the justice system. This wasn't about what's fair. This is about we have a game to play. What can we do in this situation to stop events from happening moving forward? And I think they pretty much did a good job at that. So nothing really to say there. We'll talk about the Evans thing, I guess, maybe afterwards. I think there's a Sean Payton clip where he talks about it. But let's get to the real issue. This Jameis Winston experience, this experiment, this Jameis Winston thing, it's going on far too long. It ain't going to work, okay? I told y'all it wasn't going to work. What a surprise. I was right. It's not going to work, all right? You need two things in this league, or one of two things. Can't have them both. I guess you technically could. You need one of two things in this league, or your team is stuck, absolutely stuck. You either need an MVP level, insanely high level quarterback, all right? Think of the Aaron Rodgers, think of the Tom Bradys, think of the Josh Allens, think of the Lamar Jacksons, think of those guys, the Patrick Mahomes, or you need a very young quarterback who you're developing and is on the upswing. Think Tua, okay? Think Jalen Hurts, players like that. You need one of those two things. Once you realize you don't have that thing, there is no other option. What's not an option is going and getting a backup quarterback to maybe mold into a serviceable starter. What is not an option is take a very average quarterback and try and build around it and kind of hide it, a.k.a. Ryan Tannehill. It doesn't happen. The NFL is moving rapidly to where it is such a quarterback-driven league at this point. It's insane. I mean, before it was already moving that way, but if you had like a Derrick Henry could carry the Titans to the playoffs, could carry the Titans. Now, that just isn't it. That just flat out isn't it. You have to have, roster-wise, you have to have a dominant quarterback. And the only reason I threw in the young quarterback is because at some point you have to develop a quarterback. At some point, more than likely, unless you're just constantly going to free agency, more than likely you will have to draft or develop a young quarterback. All right, so the Malik Willises, players like that who we've seen this year, the Kenny Pickett's, I'm not counting them out, right? Like the Steelers are in a situation with Mitchell Trubisky where he's a bridge to their future. No one in Pittsburgh is saying, maybe Mitchell Trubisky's the guy. Maybe Mitchell Trubisky's the guy moving forward. Maybe we can build the franchise around Mitchell Trubisky. No, they're saying, hey, Trubisky, don't be the worst player on the field until we get to Kenny Pickett. Jameis Winston has benefited tremendously from social media, in my opinion. He's become like a heartwarming story because of social media. There's been a ton of great press on him working out, him giving interviews. They're funny, they're inspirational. He does have a great story. I like Jameis Winston. Everyone likes Jameis Winston. No one is going to say something bad about Jameis Winston unless you're a general manager of a Publix in Florida. All right? We're all cool with Jameis Winston. But that stops at a certain point when you just cannot do what you're being asked to do on the football field. And that's right now. Jameis Winston is who we thought he was. Actually, it's worse because he won't even let himself be who we thought he was. I said this last week, and you'll hear me use that turn of phrase a lot. I said this last week because I could not have been more right last week with my preview of this game. But we'll get to that, trust me. I would much rather lose with Jameis Winston being Jay Cutler, where he's just slinging it 50 times a game, throws for 5,000 yards, throws 40 touchdowns and 40 picks, and we go 9-8. I'm so much happier with that than this new version of Jameis Winston that is scared to death to throw the football. Scared to death to push the ball downfield. Now, I will say this. This is where things changed. Yesterday, I really got like a full game, all 22, bird's eye look at Jameis Winston playing quarterback for the Saints. And I'll tell you this. I don't know how the hell he threw for 5,000 yards. I really don't. Because and maybe this is the mental shift. And maybe he is just a little bit older, and maybe it's just kind of going downhill a little bit. Not that I'm saying he's old, but it happens, especially after a bunch of injuries. His ability to push the ball downfield is non-existent. His deep balls are ugly. He has no zip on the ball. And you saw that with a lot of the turnovers. A lot of the turnovers were just bad throws where the ball was floating to the sidelines, and they just got picked. Or a forced throw that didn't have enough on it that just got easily intercepted. And maybe it's because of his back. Maybe the fractures in his back. I don't know how bad that is. You would assume that if you have a fractured back that's bad enough, then the medical staff would probably say, you know what, man, how about you just don't play? Like let's, you have a fractured back. So I'm just going to assume that the medical staff saw it and said, you know what, I mean, he's got some stress fractures or something, but he can play. Like it's not a fractured back. A fractured back sounds really bad, right? So maybe it's the back. But he looked terrible. He looked like he couldn't even do the Jay Cutler thing where he's just going back there and letting it rip. Because when he let it rip on deep throws, really anything past about 12 yards, inaccurate, ball was floating all over the place, didn't look good, and was generally to absolutely nobody. Okay? Jameis was really bad. For sure. Like, I don't want to keep harping on that. But it's over. The experiment is over. And the worst part is, for the past couple of years, the Saints are wasting an incredible window. The Saints are almost like a better version of the 49ers. Because they can run the ball. Mark Ingram was running great. They have weapons in the wide receiver court. They have an incredible defense. I don't think anyone would argue with probably top 5 in the league. They just don't have a quarterback. And unfortunately, the Saints are in a worse spot than the 49ers because now the 49ers have Jimmy Garoppolo, who I've been screaming for a year or at least 6 months or whenever the San Francisco 49ers made Jimmy Garoppolo available. Go get him. If you can go get Jimmy Garoppolo for, let's just say, a 4th-round pick or a 3rd-round pick or whatever, and have Jimmy Garoppolo try and manage this team to 10 wins or manage this team to the playoffs, we know he can do it because he did it in San Francisco. I had this conversation in the offseason, so I'll have it again right here. My argument was Jimmy Garoppolo has taken this exact team. The Saints and the 49ers are built the exact same way. He can do exactly what he did in Frisco. And people say, well, what did he do in San Francisco? And to that I say, win 40 games and lose 14. To that I say, go to the Super Bowl and be winning by double digits against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. To that I say, the following year, go to the NFC Championship game where you should have won that. You were 4 minutes away from back-to-back Super Bowls. And arguably, the Saints have better weapons than the 49ers. We wasted an opportunity, and I said this in the Dome as I was walking out. It's easy to blame Winston. It's easy to blame Allen. It's easy to blame the referees. It's easy to blame Mike Evans. I blame Mickey Loomis. I blame the front office. Now, look, maybe it's a book situation. Maybe they were dealing with so much salary cap stuff. They were like, look, we're gonna have to just punt on a year. We can't absorb Jimmy Garoppolo's contract. We can't go make a move for Russell Wilson. We can't go try and get these guys. We can't do any of that right now. We have to just take a year, chill, get our books right, and then we can go off and pop off. And maybe that's the situation. I trust Mickey Loomis because in the past he hasn't let us down. And I thought it was kind of weird, honestly, that he was going into this season with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback. Because, for all 22 guys like me, you know what you're going to get. And let me say this again. For all the people, and we're about to get to the Saints fans, because that's really the biggest crux of the issue here. For all the people who are like, why don't we give Jameis a chance? Or how do you know what Jameis can do? I don't know if they have dementia, if they have the Men in Black little memory eraser. We know what he can do. We saw what he could do last year. We've seen it this year, and we saw it in Tampa. This isn't a first-year starter. Again, this is a guy who threw 30 interceptions and fumbled 16 times in 16 games. That's 46 turnovers in 16 games. With a team that had the roster, minus Tom Brady, to go to the Super Bowl that he went 8-8 with. You know how good a team has to be to go 8-8 when they're staring 46 turnovers in the face? We know what he is. With Sean Payton, the greatest offensive mind in the last 10 years, some would say, he averaged 120 yards passing. This isn't a mystery. You know, like this, and I keep saying the Mitchell Trubisky thing. It's like if people in Pittsburgh were like, I don't know, man. I mean, we need to be able to see Mitchell Trubisky play. We've seen him play. He was drafted. He started. He's played. We have the tape. We know what he is. It's nuts. Before we get to the Saints fans, because that's going to be the real part of this, I want to talk about the Bucs. Man, did I nail the Bucs or did I nail the Bucs? Remember when I said that the Bucs are kind of like the new Bucs? Remember when I said the Bucs are kind of like this new team that Todd Bowles has turned into like 1994 offense? That's the Bucs. It's crazy to watch. It's bananas to watch how different the Bucs are. So I did the numbers. Now this is first downs in this game, and it's not counting the last possession where Brady kneeled, because obviously they're going to run and obviously they're going to get negative yards. So this is it. This is amazing. So the Bucs had 23 first down plays. Okay? 17 out of 23 times they ran the ball. 17 out of 23 times they ran the football on first down with Tom Brady, and averaged 3 yards per carry. So it's not like they were averaging 6 yards a carry and they were just running and running and running and running. On first downs across the entire game, the Buccaneers averaged 2.7 yards per play on first downs. That is wildly inefficient. That is bananas to me. It's crazy to see the flip from this team. And you're probably saying like, man, it was pretty crazy, James, how you nailed that 1 week into the season. You all 22'd to where you could realize that they were doing that. That's pretty impressive. I'm pretty impressed. Like I'm pretty impressed too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty impressed as well that I was able to do that. But that's the case. The Buccaneers are not your daddy's Buccaneers. Okay? The Buccaneers are an old school defense first, offense last, run the football team. And they have Tom Brady on the team. Before the season, or before last week really, I had the Bucs pretty highly power rated. Now, no way. Like, you can go ahead and scratch them off the Super Bowl list. Because with Todd Bowles running this philosophy, you might as well have Mitchell Trubisky back there. You might as well have Jameis Winston back there. Tom Brady, the guy who led the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns last year, it's crazy how poorly Bowles is coaching this team. The shift from Bowles to Arians is one of the biggest, or from Arians to Bowles is one of the biggest coaching downgrades I've ever seen. And I don't think Arians is that great of a coach. But Arians knew what he had. Arians knew what he had, right? And let Tom Brady throw it around. All right, let's look at the box score before we get to Saints Nation. Total yards. Saints 1 total yards. Yards per play. Saints 1 yards per play. Those two are usually pretty indicative that, you know, if you win those, you probably should win the game. But, and then the other thing I like to look at is yards yards per rush. So again, 5.1 yards per rush for the Saints, 2.4 for the Bucs. Now here's the big equalizer. This is the stat that makes everything else irrelevant. Turnovers. If you lose the turnover game, it's like 65% you're going to lose the game. Maybe not that high, but it's pretty close. Especially when you lose it with 5 turnovers to Tampa's 1. So you may look at this box score and say, I don't know, I mean, it's kind of close. It wasn't. It was not. It was not. When you lose by 10 at home, 5 turnovers, you deserve to lose the game. I don't care how many phantom calls there are. I've said my piece on Jameis Winston. The unfortunate thing now for the Saints is that because they didn't listen to me and they didn't go get Jimmy Garoppolo, the season's pretty much sunk. Like, the season is pretty much sunk. So now you pretty much have to ride Jameis out unless he's hurt. Then Andy Dalton you ride out, I guess. But the problem is now is that it's another year you're wasting. Another year of Cam Jordan you're wasting. Another year of Michael Thomas you're wasting. Another year of Alvin Kamara you're wasting. Like, you're wasting this window. You're wasting this package. So I hate to see that. I mean, the Saints right now, unless something dramatically changed. If they had Sean Payton, I would probably say, like, Sean Payton could probably coach a team to, 8 or 9 wins. He could probably get the most out of Jameis. With Dennis Allen, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this Saints team is a 7-win team. They might be a 6-win team. I mean, let's look at their schedule. They have a really tough schedule. We already know what happened here. Easily could be 0-2. So you've got Carolina, coin flip. Minnesota in London, probably a loss. Seattle should be a win. It's in the Dome. Cincinnati, since he's playing terrible, but obviously they're going to be favored, or they're going to be favored to win. At Arizona, that's probably a loss. Vegas, I'd say coin flip, but Vegas is probably the better team. Baltimore's the better team. Pittsburgh, coin flip, but we should win, especially if TJ Watt's not there. Rams, the loss. Frisco, loss. Tampa, I mean, at Tampa, I'll say is a loss. Atlanta, coin flip, but we should win. It's at home. At Cleveland, Deshaun Watson's back, so Cleveland's the better team there, especially on the road. Philadelphia's better. So if you told me, like, find guaranteed 6 wins, we already have one. So I'll go Seattle. I'll say Pittsburgh. I'll say Atlanta. I'll say Carolina in the Dome. So that's 4. So that's 5 wins right there on the season. Can you find 3 more wins to go 8 and 9? Getting 500 isn't going. I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I don't see a route to get to 9 and 8. I just don't. I mean, we would have to sneak Cincinnati, sneak Minnesota, sneak Vegas. I mean, it's not looking good, ladies and gentlemen. So let's shift to the Saints. I hate to be talking like this, but it's just these little simps. I mean, it's just the simps and the cucks, really. Simps and cucks and simps. But let's read some stuff. So now I've just pulled these two to bounce stuff off of. I'm not saying that I'm talking directly to these people. I don't know who these people are, but I've seen this shared all over my Twitter. Those are the first one. Here's the dilemma Dennis Allen faces. Bench Jameis so his back gets right. Play Dalton and he cooks. And Saints win. You got a full-blown quarterback situation. Is he willing to open the chaos box this soon? Lots of coaches aren't. See Haslett, 2002. Here's a little spoiler alert. There ain't no quarterback situation. The quarterback situation, that does not exist. Jameis Winston is gone after this year. Andy Dalton is gone after this year. And this is what I'm talking about. Okay, this is what I'm talking about with, well, maybe this guy can cook. We know what Andy Dalton is. We saw him his whole career in Cincinnati. And you know what he was? Ass. Then we saw him in Dallas. You know what he was? Ass. You know what he is now? Ass. That's why he's a backup quarterback for his third team. Andy Dalton can't cook. Andy Dalton is not a cook. Andy Dalton is ramen noodles all the time. He might not even be ramen noodles because the creamy chicken ramen noodle slaps. Okay? So let's just say Allen was in this dilemma. And let's say he benched Jameis. And let's say Andy Dalton came in and started lighting that ass up. Quarterback controversy's over. It's not like Jameis Winston. This could happen with like the Jets, because in this situation, Jameis Winston is Zach Wilson, and in this situation, Andy Dalton is Joe Flacco. If Joe Flacco wins 6 straight games and starts just spinning the pill all over the place, the Jets actually do have a quarterback situation because they have a second overall pick investment in Zach Wilson, and they can't afford for their franchise to think that Zach Wilson is worse than Joe Flacco because they have a huge investment in that player and have to get him on the field. The Saints don't have that investment in Jameis. If Andy Dalton is cooking, the situation has resolved itself. And Andy Dalton is now your starting quarterback until we can find one in the draft or free agency. But it's not a play Andy Dalton. He cooks. OMFG. What are we going to do with Jameis? I'll tell you what. Bench his ass. He isn't the franchise. He's on a small deal. This dude is gone. He just came off ACL surgery. There's no capital invested in him. There's no. I mean, I just don't get how. Am I the only one who should be in the front office? Now let's go to the next one. And this is the real problem. But before that, we'll read this first. This one was disgusting. Now it's long. I'm going to read the whole thing. I have it up here just, to bounce, but you don't have to read it. Just a reminder that he's still your quarterback one, whether you like him or not. He's still going to be the first one in the building and the last one to leave. That dedication isn't going to change just because your opinion on him did. He's still going to be the first person in that locker room to hold himself accountable, even for the mistakes that he didn't make. His leadership qualities don't vanish just because your passion did. He's going to still walk out onto that field with his head held high, even when his own fans chant to bench him. Why? Because his confidence remains consistent, even though your support doesn't. You will still see him donating time, money, and effort to the community off the field. His commitment to serving the city doesn't switch up just because you did. He's still going to develop himself as a player and as a person because he will still continue to believe in himself even when you don't. He's still going to show out for the city of New Orleans and leave it all on the field. Why? Because that's who he is, regardless of if you are behind him or not. To be honest, I'm not sure which injury to his back is worse. The 4 fractures or the knife that was left there by the fans yesterday. Regardless, he won't allow either roadblock stop him from continuing his journey to becoming the very best that he can be. That's my quarterback one, and I'm here for the losses just as passionately as I'm here for the wins. And so is he. Jameis Winston has played 9 games for the Saints. 9 games. This guy is ready to run through a brick wall for Jameis Winston. If you think he's so great for the community, vote for him for mayor, not for starting quarterback. All this is great, but what the hell are you talking about? He's been here for a year, and he's played 9 games. 9 games. What are we talking about? I don't get this. He averaged 161 yards a game his first year. He's thrown 6 interceptions and 17 touchdowns. Okay? That's it. This isn't a guy who's been here his entire career. This isn't a guy who's born here. This isn't a guy who's spent 10 years here. This is a guy who's played 9 games. He's 6-3. He didn't win 15 straight games. He's 6-3 in his 9 games since 2021. And people are acting like Jameis Winston is the backbone of the city. This is crazy. You will still see him donating time, money, and effort to the community off the field. Like I said, put him on the ballot. But what does that have to do with him playing quarterback? That's what I'm saying about the social media thing, where this PR for Jameis Winston has been good. He's just kind of a fun-loving meme, and people love him for that, and that's all fine. He's like their favorite character in a TV show. That's all fine. But that doesn't justify him being your starting quarterback. That's not enough for me to be like, well, shit. He does donate a lot of time and effort to the community, so I guess let's just keep rolling him out there and getting our ass kicked. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it really doesn't. It's kind of funny to me that all of a sudden in 9 games, the Saints fans somehow are going to bat for Jameis Winston, his off the field integrity. Guys, we got to win games. Like we have to go out there and play the game. We have to win games. I've never seen a player have so much love from the community for really no reason. Again, I think Jameis is funny. I think his heart's in the right place. I think he's a good guy. I would drink a beer with Jameis Winston. I'd give him a hug. I have no ill will towards Jameis Winston as a person. But I don't think he should be our starting quarterback moving forward. I think he should be this year. I think he should be this year, because what else are we going to do? But I don't think he should be the plan. I don't think it should be like, all right, well, we got Jameis Winston he's 25, so I figure we got probably 6 more years of him. So hopefully we can figure something out in that time. So I guess the question is, what should we do besides get all these fans, their brains checked? But what should we do? If I know so much, which I do, and I'm right with everything I've said so far, which I am, what should we do? I would say play Jameis, and just hope that, well, in the short term, I'd probably sit Jameis. If his back is hurt, if he has 4 fractures in his back, then I'd probably sit Jameis. And I'd probably say, like, look, man, we have a game at Carolina, a winnable game at Carolina. Then we go to London. Like, do you want to do that? Or do you think your back would feel a lot better if we waited and we held you out for 2 weeks and then you could play at home against Seattle? I would have that conversation with Jameis. I wouldn't make him make the trip to London unless he wanted to play through it. That'd be the first thing I would do. Second thing I would do is I would just play Jameis. He's better than Andy Dalton. God, I hope so. God, I hope so. He's better than Andy Dalton, so I'd play him. With that being said, I would play him with the understanding that we're probably going to go somewhere in the ballpark of 5-12, 6-11, 7-10 at the best. And I'd say, okay, look, like, we're not going to make the playoffs this year. We're not going to make a push. We do not have the capabilities to do that. So what's our plan moving forward? The plan moving forward, this next draft is a great draft for quarterbacks. So I'd have that'd be option number 1. Option number 1 would be, let's try and find our way into that top 10 and draft a quarterback. And we move forward. If that doesn't work out, then you have to go into free agency. I mean, you have to go into free agency and hope that there's someone available. And if there isn't anyone available, then I guess you punt another season. I mean, like, that's the only options. You have to take a quarterback in the draft. So that's the main thing. But because it's not going to be another Russell Wilson situation where there's just quarterbacks all over the place. Like that's not going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, I would just plan on boosting my draft pick as best as I could. Draft a quarterback in the draft, and then start a whole new thing. But you're gonna do that. If you do that, you're 3 years away from being a year away, because this season's over. Next season, you'll probably have a rookie quarterback. Then the next season, you're going into that rookie quarterback's second year, so you probably have a shot. So in 3 years, what's the roster look like? Is Michael Thomas still on the team? Is Alvin Kamara still on the team? Is Cam Jordan still in the league? Marshawn Lattimore, is he still on the team? I don't know. So it's just a bad window. We should have made a move earlier. We just got caught in a bad spot. So that's kind of how I'm looking at all this. But I just can't get over this. I can't get over the way that the Saints fans are talking about this. I mean, it's really insane. The stuff that I've heard leaving the stadium, the stuff I've heard just in the streets, the stuff I've heard just from people, it honestly, it's just nonsensical. Like, it's crazy. It's like they've never watched the sport before. But it is what it is, and we have what we have. We don't. I mean, I'll tell you what's not going to fix anything is like moving Taysom Hill to quarterback. What's not going to fix anything is playing Andy Dalton. Like, those things aren't going to fix anything. So those are conversations being had that shouldn't be had right now. We made our bed and it's time to lie in it. We had opportunities to make moves. We didn't. We have Jameis. So now we're going to see what happens. But it doesn't look good. So let me know what you think in the comments, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you think we should do. Am I being too hard on Jameis? Am I being too hard on the pillar of the community? Jameis for mayor or Jameis for quarterback? Am I right? Let me know down there where you stand. Are you a Jameis fan? Are you a Jameis backer? Or are you with me? Now, I could be wrong, but I never am.
Where was the pain, Jameis?
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere. So we got to keep on pushing through and being resilient.